Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Midnight Therapy. I am your host, the one and only Cat Matthews. It has been quite a while. I can't tell you how happy I am to be back in the chair, in the studio, surrounded by my many items of interest, my sarcophagus, my desk woodchuck, and of course to be in front of all of you, giving you your usually weekly dose of entertainment here on the show. It's all about entertainment. Remember, I'm just a cowboy in the basement, just giving you my opinion through a comedic lens. That's all this is. I'm not a journalist. I'm not a peer-reviewed scholar. I don't claim to be. Just a cowboy in the basement, providing you some midnight therapy, whatever that means to you. A lot to cover on this episode. I'm going to try to do it quickly because I don't want to go on about these things any longer than I have to. A lot of people are giving you their opinions on this. A lot of it is extremely annoying. Waking up and going on Facebook of all apps, which is supposed to be catching up with your family and seeing pictures from your distant relatives, or seeing a food recipe that someone made or an achievement. But you have to read these rants from these people that are now political analysts and professionals, and they never told you, but they actually are poli-sci majors, and they know how the world works, and here's what they would have done better. And I like to call these people, they're virtue signalers, pseudo intellectuals. You probably already thought of a few people just by me saying that. That's how irritating it is. And maybe they appear to be, gaining traction. And it's because they are bombarded with comments of reassurance from their echo chamber. And the reason all the comments, let's say, reassure that worldview, whatever it is they have, is because if you disagree with them, they just delete you. They delete the comment. They delete you from their life. They unfriend you on social media. And it's not like they're discreet about this. They say, if you disagree with X, Y, Z, delete me. So that reassures the echo chamber. So I had to sit through, it's been about a month. I haven't talked about politics. Good job to me. I said I was going to take a break this new year. I wanted to be more positive and not talk about all this mundane, negative, pessimistic sludge that's out there in the media, in current events, in the world, in America. But after seeing all these, for lack of a better term, shit takes, I thought I would briefly jump on here and try to cover the last month in a quick 30 to 40 minute episode, which is a hard thing to do. Of course, I had a lot of time to take a step back, which was nice, to be out of it for a bit and to look at things not as the minute by minute or the day by day, but to look at it as a month. What happened in a month? And it's a lot. And also not very much at the same time. These things that you think are going to be massive kind of fizzle out. Like, I thought we were going to invade Greenland. See how that one kind of got, put on the back burner because of all the other stuff? That's why you have to be patient with these things. Not everything is what it seems. But anyways, I was able to, reflect on this for about a month. And I wanted to make sure that you weren't going to get the same regurgitated talking points that the other talking heads give you. I'm not here to reassure anyone's beliefs. I'm not here to make any claims that are going to shake the whole earth. I'm not here to do that. I'm here to look at everything that went on, as you should do. You should be critically thinking adults, and you should also be looking at everything from multiple sources and thinking about it for a good amount of time, like a critical thinking population. And then you come to me and you get my take and see if you agree with anything I say. I don't want you to adopt my take as your take. And I don't want you to completely hate my take and never watch my channel again. I don't want that either. I just want you to look at me as one of the many voices out there in the sea of opinions. I don't say that I'm better than anyone else or worse, but this is my take nonetheless. We're going to talk about these ICE protests in Minnesota. We're going to talk about the potential of World War III. And most importantly, we're going to talk about the Epstein files, the 3 million or so files that are, let's just cut to the chase, disgustingly disturbing. That's going to be a whole nother deep dive episode, but we're going to touch on it today. I don't have the time or the stomach to look through that filth any longer than I already have. So just going to touch on that today. Let's start off with some positivity, though. Jessup Groundhog Day was a success, to say the least. Me and Mike the Barber might have to do a whole recap episode. Maybe we'll get Jessup Jim on the show for that. I can't thank everyone that was involved enough, whether it's the founding fathers or the local businesses that opened in support or the people that came out, especially Giuseppe himself. Thank you so much to that brave little ferret for being involved in such a special day. I'm still on the high from that. So it's actually more disheartening that I have to now go back to the filth of politics and talk about it. But I am Cat Matthews. This is Midnight Therapy, and I'm in the arena. So a lot of people in the stands have a lot to say. Closed doors, private discussion. I'm out here doing this. It's not a big show. It'll probably never be a big show. But for those of you that watch, I'd be doing a great disservice to you not talking about these massive things. So we're going to get into it here. All right. So these ICE protests that are turning into more so like riots. Why did this happen? Why is it so insane? What's different? What's the same? Renee Good, obviously, we covered an episode or two ago. Terrible death, avoidable death, sad death, but we logically know how that situation happened. Kind of the same thing for this Alex Preddy guy. Also a sad death. Didn't have to happen. Tragic. But it's not a mystery of how it happened. I think as more evidence comes out, you're going to see that there was a little more involved in this situation and the situation, in and of itself. But nonetheless, still sad. Now, I said this last time, two things can be correct at the same time. It could be a tragic, sad death, but you could understand how it happened. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't go out and be a superhero if you could. But what I am saying is don't go tripping over stools that aren't in your way. That's an old cowboy saying there. You don't want to go out of your way to put yourself in danger that was clearly avoidable. And with him, with Alex Preddy, rest in peace, I don't know if he had to involve himself in the situation. That's a calculated risk. He very well could have been arrested for that, would have messed up his life, his job, his livelihood, all that. You have to take that into consideration as a critically thinking adult and a functioning member of society. If I go out and do something that I feel is heroic and I get arrested, that's going to not only mess up my life for a bit, but probably my career, my family, my wife, my kid, my parents, everyone's going to be affected by that. So I have to think about that. Do I want to do that? Then I also have to think, do I want to do that with a loaded handgun and an extra mag? Now, I understand you have the Second Amendment right. I endorse the Second Amendment. However, context matters and you have to know the risk. And if you are anything like these people that are protesting ICE, they are claiming they're incompetent and bombastic and irrational and sporadic and untrained, right? So all that going in, that puts you at an even higher risk of something terrible happening. So all I'm saying is, I don't know if it was the best decision. Does it make his death any less sad? No. But we understand that it probably wouldn't have happened if there wasn't XYZ factors, correct? I feel like that's a very reasonable thing to say. Now, what's the trend here? The trend here is the media and the powers that be, which we are going to get to say the least. We're going to get to that, whatever that is, the deep state, the true owners of the world, whatever you want to call it, the elite. What do they do when these situations happen? And by these situations, I coined the phrase, other people have said it probably, but I use the term George Floyd moment. Also, sad death didn't have to happen, but you understand how it happened, correct? See, there's a trend here. The other trend is these elites never let a good tragedy go to waste. They capitalize on a tragedy quicker than you could ever imagine. It's like a leech, it's like a parasite. And they always find a host to attach themselves to. And Renee Good was that for a while, but after Alex Preddy, unfortunately was shot by ICE, that became the guy. That became the new martyr. They went so far to show the video on every major news station multiple times. They used AI to make him look more traditionally attractive. If you don't believe me, look that up. They sold the fact that he was this good, hardworking hero nurse, which all could have been true. But they didn't really logically bring up what was going on. They just kind of appealed to the emotion, which is another tactic. Now, you got to understand these people, the powers that be, are masters of manipulation, meaning they're not really using logic, but they're using the old, you could say Greek, Roman, law school, philosophy, rhetoric, and persuasion tactics. These are things I read a great deal when I was younger in college. When I studied philosophy, I took a math and philosophy class on logic alone. And then I also took this higher ed English class, higher level, called Rhetoric and Persuasion. It was an amazing class. And I have this great book of all the rhetorical devices and how to use them and how to manipulate people to see things through your lens, not reality. And me having all this, what some would say, useless knowledge from poor decisions I made in planning my college courses is sort of benefiting me now because I get to look and see what's going on in a way that most people probably wouldn't. Now, when you do these tactics, you have to understand that you need to kind of lay it on thick and fast so that people get the narrative that is proposed to them and lock that in as the narrative. So once you sell it as this, there's no exceptions. People don't want to hear anything else. They already have their idea of what it is. And people don't want to spend too much time thinking about this stuff. They want the Spark Notes quick summary version. So if you could get it down into a buzzword or a buzz term that they remember, that's what they'll get from it. I remember when I was a younger lad, it was, if Mitt Romney wins, the middle class loses. It was like some tag from a political campaign. And I always remembered that. And I knew nothing about politics at the time because I was, I don't know, in middle school or whatever. But I remember just reiterating that. If people asked me anything about politics, I was like, well, if Mitt Romney wins, the middle class loses. So that's kind of where we're at now. So what do you do? What do the elites do? This is right out of the playbook, everyone. This is it's too difficult to indoctrinate people in the traditional forms they used to. They used to just try to send messages in a newspaper on the news, but people kind of woke up a little and it didn't work so well. So what do they do now? They hit you in your comfort area. So instead of some suit telling you his view in a debate-like style on a news show, they get you when your guard's down, when you're comfortable. So maybe it's your favorite celebrity and you love every song they have. It's a singer. Billie Eilish, for example. You love her. You want a calm night of nonsense junk TV. So you put on the Grammys and you want to see which rich elite celebrity is going to win whatever pointless award for whatever stupid Academy nomination they got. And you turn it on and you hear your favorite singer, Billie Eilish, say something as profound as, no one is illegal on stolen land. And then because you love Billie Eilish and you have a poster of her on the wall and in your bedroom and she's your favorite musician ever, all her songs and all the words. That is now your political stance on the matter because you like and trust Billie Eilish. Now, of course, I'm being sarcastic when I say profound statement. It's actually one of the dumbest statements I've ever heard. No one is illegal on stolen land. Not going to get into that. I don't have to break down this common sense argument for you, but every land on earth is technically stolen. I guarantee you she has a giant wall and 24-hour security around her home. I guarantee she wouldn't invite you or anyone else onto her property. So I guess she does believe in borders, and not for nothing. If you're referring to this land in particular and saying or insinuating that it belongs to the Native Americans, do you think the Native Americans would be giving you some golden statue for your mediocre songs on a big stage with lights in an amphitheater surrounded by rich people where they're serving caviar and champagne? Do you think they would have done that? Or do you think this country, America, that we built, is the only reason you have such a privilege to accept that gold award for your music? Think it over. But the hypocrisy of these rich elites lecturing me about political issues is rather insulting. Lecturing me about illegal immigration, an issue that will never be at their door, never be in there. They'll never encounter the problem of illegal immigration and never be affected by it. These people are the most privileged, rich, wealthy people on the planet. And they're lecturing us from the comfort of our lazy boy in our middle class house about why we should be better on certain things and we should be more equitable and we should be more empathetic. These people are loaded. These people live a life of privilege and luxury, and they're lecturing you and I about our empathy and our morals. Interesting. And what makes that even more interesting is what I'm about to talk about with those Epstein files and some of those nice celebrities that lectured me a couple years back. It's funny how the tables turn. But most people don't think or form their own beliefs. That's what I want people to understand. Most people do not think for themselves. Thinking is a rather hard thing to do. What they actually do is adopt the beliefs of others and take the path less traveled. If it's easier to just believe something because it fits in with your friend group or the people you work with or the people you aspire to be, that's kind of the view you take on, and you kind of LARP or I guess dress up as that kind of person for the rest of your life without actually ever thinking about what you really believe on certain matters. And this isn't just politics. It could be anything. It could be your music taste, your art taste, anything, which shows you like. Maybe you don't like a show. You're never going to say you don't like it. It's very fascinating to me. And this idea of celebrities lecturing us is the thing that really insults me the most. For example, Bruce Springsteen, back in the news. Again, what did I say the trend is? Never let a good tragedy go to waste. Bruce Springsteen, he's like 80 some years old. He peaked 50 years ago. And he's actually my favorite musician. Now, here's why I'm truly not locked into anything. I am truly a free thinker. Bruce Springsteen's my favorite musician ever. I think he's the greatest songwriter, and I adore the guy. I looked up to him when I was a kid. He's the reason I picked up a guitar. I still think that he does things that are completely stupid, disgusting, shameful, and that I would never, ever endorse. And that's okay. You're not supposed to worship people blindly, and you should never worship a man or a human on this planet. So that's what I have to say to people that go, oh, you like Bruce Springsteen? Yeah, I like his music. You need to separate the art from the artist. I don't need to agree with every single thing a person believes in to be a true fan of them or to be a friend of them. That's a lesson we should just know, but some people forget. Anywho, Springsteen comes out with some song about Minnesota to ride the coattails of this tragedy and to boost his late fleeting fame, anything to cling to relevancy, it is actually disgusting what these people do. And it's even more disgusting how people eat it up. They eat up the slop. Not to mention that this great artist that wrote songs like Jungle Land and Born to Run, it's actually insulting. This song is actually really horrible. And I had to listen to all these, like I say, pseudo intellectuals tell me why the song is actually so good. And like painting or like any form of art, this is my experience. If somebody has to explain it to you and tell you why it's good, it's probably not good. It should kind of speak for itself. But this, it seemed like some AI cringy, like, I don't know, improv poetry speech he gave that was way too literal. He was like speaking facts, like from the news, like this happened on this day and this person laid on the street. I'm like, okay, not too much. It didn't leave too much for the imagination. He kind of just said what happened while a acoustic guitar was strummed in the background. Anyways, only reason I bring it up is you have everyone and their brother trying to get a little piece of that action, a little piece of that tragedy, whether they're virtue signaling their friends on Facebook to look like they are a good moral person, or whether they are a content creator trying to get clicks, or whether they're an 80-some-year-old musician trying to stay relevant in the ever-changing world of social media. Everybody has a reason they're doing what they are doing online, and it usually and rarely seldomly has anything to do with honest, genuine empathy for the situation. You might not like that, but that's the truth. Now, let's get into the world. The world's watching, everyone, and it's too much to keep up with what's going on in this country. Nevertheless, the world, it's hard to keep up what's going on in my own life. Um, but don't think the world isn't watching and all this World War III talk isn't kind of real. They're seeing the U.S. completely divided. It's been divided for about 10 years, maybe more. Um, and it has a lot to do with Trump. Trump is a lot of people's boogeyman. It's kind of like Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner. If Wile E. Coyote ever caught the Roadrunner, what would he do with his life? You know, like if Trump wasn't around, the day comes when he leaves this earth or presidency or whatever, when he goes away, what will people do? It's like a love-hate relationship. You know, a lot of people that hate Trump, it's kind of like Batman and the Joker. Like they actually kind of need each other. They actually kind of love each other. Like these people that hate Trump actually love Trump because it gives them purpose. You know, it gives them fulfillment to make it their life goal to despise him. It's actually a sick psychological phenomenon that goes on. He takes up a lot of real estate in people's brains. Um, but yeah, Trump is the bad guy for a lot of people, and Trump is kind of an excuse. People make excuses for their mediocrity. And they blame Trump for, well, I would have been this, that, and that if it wasn't for Trump. Trump ruined everything for me. And it's nice to be able to put a tangible thing to make up for your lack thereof success. And Trump is that for a lot of people. Now, of course, he's a flawed guy, and I criticize Trump all the time. See, the thing with me is, even though I like certain things about Trump and I'm open about that, I am the first one to call out errors and things I don't like, and when he is wrong and when he is disgusting. And I'm always very critical of him. I think if you aren't critical of people just because you like them, I think that makes you a fool. You need to be critical of people you like even more. It's kind of like if you're a parent and your kid wants to drink and party with you underage. It's like, Dad, can I have a beer? You got to say no. That's not your friend. That's your son. You know, if that's your son, you need to be more critical because that's your son. It's easy to be less critical. It's like, well, it's my son. No, if you love someone, you need to be more critical. You need to be more hard on them. That's just my opinion. But anyways, it is not a good look to see the U.S. divided so much. And trust me, people are watching. I hope you all pay attention to trends. I hope you know history because I'm seeing a lot of the tricks working. A lot of people have amnesia. They forgot. For example, people are so mad at these ICE raids. They went on for 20 years before Trump. Obama did them. Clinton did them. Deported millions of people. You never heard about it. You know why? Because there wasn't HD smartphones in everybody's hand. And there wasn't a thing called a sanctuary city. And brief spark notes, sanctuary city is when If it's someone who is illegally in the country, an illegal immigrant, whatever you want to call them, undocumented, I don't care how the terminology changes, whatever you want to call it, an illegal immigrant goes into custody of law enforcement. They go to the jail. Usually, throughout all the history, they would then contact ICE or immigrations and customs, and then they would go into their custody, and then they would be deported or dealt with. Sanctuary cities, they don't report anything to the feds. So they get them and release them. I think they even call it catch and release. And then ICE has to find the illegal criminals at their house or on the street, and that looks bad for optics. It looks bad. It doesn't look good, and nobody wants to see it. And of course, nobody wants to see innocent people. Nobody wants to see a guy that's a cook or his little son or all the terrible things that you're seeing on the news. Nobody wants to see any of that. But you have to make some hard decisions there. Do we have law and order or do we not? Are some laws better or worse than others? Should some be forgiven? You know what I'm saying? If we forgive people in the eyes of the law that committed a crime because they have a family at home, I think we have to do that for our own citizens then, you know? So let's say, I don't know, say a citizen gets a DUI, but he has a wife and kids at home. Can we just let that go then, you know, because he has a wife and kids at home? I love the idea of empathy, and I believe it within my life. As a person, I'm a moral, empathetic, compassionate person. But in regards of me being a citizen of the United States, in that structure, which is different, you need to have some sort of law and order, or the whole thing goes away. And then you give into the anarchy and the chaos, which is not better. Hint, hint. But you have now leftists or liberals, whatever you want to call them, going nuts and rioting and protesting over these ICE raids and destroying property and burning dumpsters outside of hotels and making noises and all this stuff. And they're kind of anti-Fed. They're anti-Fed. But you remember when the left was the authoritative group during COVID? They were ratting people out for having their business open. They were demanding you have your card to get into a business, show your ID, get on this database, get the vaccine, ratting people that didn't. Like, I remember that. I also remember January 6th when Trump supporters raided the Capitol building and went against the feds, and the left wanted all of them, prosecuted. They said they were treasonists. See, I guess it's okay to go against the federal government as long as you support the cause of why it's being done. Now, that's how you know we are a nation in decline, because things should be objective all the time, not consequential. It shouldn't be, well, I support that if it agrees with me. See, that's where we go downhill real quick. But instead of explaining to the public what I just did, that logical clarity, the media and those powers that be are not doing any of that. They are just creating their own narrative that they want you to see. They're saying that ICE is like the Nazi Gestapo, and it's giving these people that I do believe a lot of them have just good hearts and a little too much time on their hands. They're giving them a false sense of purpose, that their purpose in life to find fulfillment is to fight Nazis, to be a civil rights activist, to be part of history, to beat these 100% objectively wrong people any way possible. And it becomes sort of an obsession. You see these people there in the middle of the day going completely insane, screaming at ICE because they are emboldened and they feel like they have people behind them. You know what I'm saying? Power in numbers. Now, this is easy to do. I talk about this quite often, but if you have a few malicious shepherds, you can lead a lot of sheep with only a few shepherds, and if you have bad intentions, they'll walk right off a cliff. And you're kind of seeing that. And not to generalize here, but the sheep, once you lead them, they go on their own, they do the rest. And all you need is one or two useful idiots, as the term goes. It's not my term, but that's a term. A useful idiot could totally reinforce the narrative that they're trying to spin up. And not saying that happened, but it does happen from time to time on both sides, whatever you want to believe. Whether it's a Fed at January 6th opening the gate and letting the Jan 6 rioters in, Useful idiot might happen to wear a buffalo hat and walk up on the podium and make for good PR. That's a useful idiot. I'm sure you can interpret a few others, but don't hate the player, hate the game. You got a lot of these people. You got Jake Lang, Don Lemon, useful idiots. Recent times, Jake Lang, I think he's some type of Fed himself, but he almost got killed at one of those Minnesota anti-ICE protests. They throwing balloons full of pee at him. He got stabbed. They dragged him. It was like 500 people versus one. Doesn't look good. Don Lemon tried to be a virtue signaler, tried to be an activist, tried to get clickbait, raided a church, broke a law. He disrupted worship, got arrested. He tried to say it was like the Gestapo in the middle of the night. It was because of his skin color and his sexual preference. These are all the sheep, There's sheep and shepherds. The only problem with America, take this for what it's worth. Right now in America, the wolf is in the hen house. And the hens are mad at the other hens for not wanting to let the wolf in. Think about that. This wolf is different. Don't be so rude. Where are your manners? Look at him. He's nice. Let him in. Guys, I don't think it's a good idea. Well, you're outdated, you bigot. Look at him. It's a nice wolf. That's where we are as a country. Take that for what it's worth. It's disgusting. I'm going to tell you. I really don't know what to say. And that example is not even about people per se. It's about ideology. These ideologies will warp you. And living in the age of the algorithm, you will get only more of those beliefs reassured to you. And you will get less and less counter beliefs. And then you will be emboldened and you will feel justified and you'll feel power in numbers that belief is shared by everyone. And I can assure you it's not. Whether it's that belief or that belief, no matter what side you're on, trust me, there's other people that disagree. And that's okay. You don't need to go insane about that. Now let's close here with the most disgusting story. These Epstein files. Like I said, this takes some time. There's like 3 million files. I don't think it's the tip of the iceberg here of what they discovered. But from what I saw already, I've seen enough. Let me just be honest. It's more disgusting than ever imagined. It is horrid what's in there. And I remember 10 years ago, 12 years ago, I was just starting to get into opening up my mind to what else is out there. Started deep diving down all the rabbit holes, and everybody said the satanic pedophile occult stuff was just hocus pocus and fake, and that's not real. But it seems like it's real. And you might think I'm nuts, but if you don't take it from me, I'm just a cowboy in the basement. Go read the files. Go tell me what you think. You think those rich people with all that power just made that stuff up for fun, or do you think they really believed in it? I didn't even deep dive into these files yet, but it seems like all those conspiracy theories are 100% true, or at least a large part of them are true. And that's the most disturbing part. I'll give you everything in a nutshell. Jeffrey Epstein was involved in literally everything, from intelligence to politics to finance to celebrities to war. And his reach went so far, it's unfathomable for a very long time. No one can explain how he got so wealthy and powerful, or why, and why he had so much influence. And it was all surrounded by, it seems, at the end at least, this operation of this island with women and girls and a lot of high profile figures. And they were kind of talking all lackadaisical back in the day over email, and all those emails are there for you to see. And there's a lot of pictures and video for you to see and for you to interpret certain things from. And a lot of it's redacted, but a lot of it's not. Just to touch on a few things, there's talk of pandemic plans, and there's talk of World War III, and there's talk of Biden being fake and wearing a mask. And there is some crazy stuff in there. And this all seems to be some sort of blackmail operation. There's some, I don't know, things are pointing that he was involved in Israeli intelligence, that he was somehow involved with Mossad, and he was involved with Iran and certain deals. And he used the word goyim a lot, which is a slur that Jewish people use to talk about non-Jews. The word goyim comes up a lot. This really starts to sound like a conspiracy theory, but it evidently is more real than we thought. The pizza stuff. I hate to even say this because you couldn't even say this 10 years ago. You'd be kicked off the internet. But the Pizzagate stuff, there's pizza references all over these emails. Jeffrey Epstein was connected to Pizzagate. So it seems now. That's the sickest part. If you know anything about that, that's a whole episode in and of itself. But if you want to go down that rabbit hole, you could. But directly connected to Jeffrey Epstein and these files. That should sicken you. It really should. It should sicken you. And all I could say is, I think this is proof that the Satan, the Lucifer, the devil, the evil force of life is very real. And the only thing that makes me happy from knowing that is that if the devil is real, then God is real. And that's the only thing that'll save you. And real evil does exist, and pray, and I hope it never finds you. I hope it doesn't. Made a joke the other day. I think I'm happy I'm poor and unsuccessful. I'm actually grateful because I don't want that. I don't want any of that stuff to ever be around me. I got goosebumps talking about it, actually. It's quite scary, and I don't want to say scary. It's disgusting, but I don't fear it, because I truly feel I'm connected to and on the power of the good. Jesus Christ, saying the name a lot. Don't discredit the power of that name. Look into it, because the other side, good and evil, you don't want to be on that evil side. I'll tell you that right now. And I'm talking, these files should be the awakening for a lot of people out there that thought some of that stuff wasn't real. If you're on the fence about God and evil and all that, and you think it's all just random, and you think that these systems are on the up and up and people are just corrupt. No, people are actually evil on this planet. And if you want to see it with your own eyes, go look at those files. That's all I could say. Jesus Christ. I hope you can find a relationship with him. And I will try to better my relationship with him for the rest of my life. And let these files be a little reminder for me to work harder at that. I'm going to end on that for now, but some very sick stuff in there. People you and I know in the political climate, the social climate, the tech climate, Bill Gates, all over those files, extensively. Talking about pandemics and planning them, and talking about how he got an STD from one of the girls and he needs an antibiotic to put in his wife's drink so she doesn't find out. And that's with Jeffrey Epstein. That's the same guy that lectured you and me about getting the COVID vaccine, that we had to. Remember, out of nowhere, he just became some scientist, some medical doctor, some vaccine expert. It's all of them. It's all of them. And we're all going to find that out. And like I said throughout this whole episode, the shepherds are going to lead the sheep wherever they want. They're going to lead them. If you're seeing something, it's because they want you to see it. It's so ironic. It's like all this is out. This should be the biggest story of all time, the biggest news story. Everybody should be talking about it, but they're not. You know what the news is talking about? That Trump staffer shared a stupid meme about Obama, an AI video of Obama as a monkey or something. That's the news story. Not this, not the satanic pedophile ring that every single person of influence in the world is involved in, that every elite in the world was involved with this satanic ring of pedophiles that controlled the world through blackmail and leverage. No, not that, but Trump's staff shared an offensive meme. That tells you everything you need to know. I will say, to end this episode, I talked about Jelly Roll a lot on this show, and I thought he was slightly disingenuous, and I don't even know if he is or not. I don't know if this changed my opinion. I still feel he is disingenuous, but I will say what he did on the Grammys in that room of elite, disingenuous, vapid, empty vessel fraudsters to go up there and speak of Jesus Christ on national TV in front of the world watching. I give you a lot of credit, Jelly Roll. Even if it's a disingenuous message about Christ, it's still a message about Christ. And I give you a lot of respect for that. That's very cool. I endorse that fully. That was cool to see. And like I said, you're going to need that in your life. I hope you all find Christ in your life. And I hope you stay away from all that other shit because it's out there. Trust me. Very disturbed. I hate to end on such a disturbing note, but it doesn't have to be disturbing. Just make sure you never surround yourself around that. Keep that far away from you. And you'll be fine. But just know it exists. You know? You got to be aware of it. It's out there. And you're going to see more and more that it is out there. If you haven't already, everyone's going to know soon. These are interesting times, to say the least. This show is brought to you in part by Jack's Pub and Eatery and Three Saints Barbershop, located in historic downtown Jessup, Pennsylvania. Get Mike the Barber on here again. We'll do a Groundhog Day recap. Also, Picardo Jewelers in Scranton. Alex Picardo had a great time. He's a founding father. We had a hell of a time. Have to get him on this podcast, too. We have a lot to talk about. Well, there it is. Short, sweet, to the point. It's good to be back. I hope you enjoy the episode. I'll be back next week. Enjoy the Super Bowl. That is tomorrow. I might post this tonight or tomorrow morning. If it's Sunday morning or regardless, even if it's Saturday night, you should put this on before the Super Bowl and watch this with your family while you eat buffalo chick dip. That could be fun. Guarantee Bad Bunny, whoever the hell that is going to say something negative about ICE. That's my little prediction here at the Super Bowl. Wonder how the alternative Super Bowl is going to go with Erica Kirk. That's about it. I have no interest in the Super Bowl this year. Don't really care about the teams. Didn't even know it was really going on. Kind of busy, but yeah. Going to watch Bad Bunny sing in Spanish, probably in a dress, talk poorly about ICE. You know, and all organic, of course. But that's about it. Stay curious, my friends. Good night.